Okay. The first order of business is to approve the September 4th and September 11th meeting minutes. We could do this one of several ways. We could have a motion to approve both and discuss both and vote on both, or do you want to do them one at a time? Your pleasure. What would you like?
One at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's gonna be difficult to vote on, because I wasn't here.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the September 4th meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Mona has made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Jean, any discussion of the September 4th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the September 4th meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All, any noes? Any, abstentions?
Changes or edits.
That would be me. Yeah.
Wendy, you're abstaining from the September 4th meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Approval. Okay. Jen, you let me know if you got that. You're all set? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the September 11th meeting minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the September 11th meeting minutes.
Okay, we have Jeff and a second.
Aye.
John, thank you. Any discussion of the September 11th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the September 11th meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Mona
I'm
and
not sure
Wendy?
which one I was. Did I miss both of them? I feel like
Yes,
I was.
yeah, Wendy. So,
Okay,
September,
okay.
so you'll abstain from, so we've got two abstentions. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is public comment. We don't have members of the public in the room, and I don't believe there's anyone on. Is there anyone on the virtually, members of the public who would like to say anything? Okay, and I just want to add, Edie, do we have another guest or a member?
Yes, this is Jane Ungenack, and she's on the Halls Road Improvements Committee and helps us with grants.
Great. Jane, can you spell your last name for our clerk?
Yes, it is UNGEMACK. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Typically at this time, we would be talking about various updates that different commissioners submit, but we will have everyone submit those the Friday before our October 16th meeting by email. This is how we're doing this now during our strategic planning process. So we will probably approve those at our October 16th meeting. All right, next up, we have the economic planning SWOT exercise for the Halls Road Commercial Zone. And as mentioned earlier, we have two guests from the Halls Road Improvement Committee, Edie and Jane. Typically what we do is, we've been going through a process of SWOT analysis, just brainstorming and looking at opportunities. This is a little different for us tonight because the other areas we've talked about don't have committees in place working on current issues. Like we talked about the distribution, light industrial zone one night, and Lime Street and the Arts District another night. So this is the first time we've got a group that's actually working towards some solutions. So it's a little bit different for us. So we're going to see how this works. But does the committee, I mean, do the commissioners want, let me ask for your suggestions. Would you like to brainstorm first, or do you want to hear from Edie and Jane first, or how would you like to do this? Any suggestions?
I'd like to hear what's most
We have
current.
a presentation.
Great,
so
I agree with John. I would like to listen.
That's good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Everybody up
Okay.
to speed.
Sounds good.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, you're on, Edie. Thank you.
you want to correct you.
Take me a minute, I gotta
You know
get myself organized here.
They're very well.
And welcome to you both. I'm sorry if I didn't
Thank
say
you.
that earlier.
Right, thank you for your efforts on the committee,
Here,
commission and committee.
Committee, yeah.
Committee, affairs. Would be correct.
Gathering.
Okay, thank you for your service.
Wendy, we're just getting our technology set up, so stand by.
Okay.
all right. So. We put together a little 10-page thing here and, just to kind of get you up to date of where we are and, reintroduce what's going on. Let's see why is this not? Come on.
Is it in the subject?
All right, so in 2019, we made the Halls Road Committee hired VSC to write a master plan with us. And the master plan was set up in two main parts. Public improvements is anything that has to do with sidewalks, bridges, stuff that's right on Halls Road, as well as crossing Lieutenant River. One is called Complete Streets, which is DOT's term for sidewalks, crossings, bikeways, public transit, lighting, and landscaping. That's probably the most expensive thing to be done because it's construction and it's design, and it's going to take a bit of time to get that all done. We've been working on it since we got our master plan done, but it's still in process. The other part to this is the bridge and pier across the Lieutenant River. And that was to install additional safety because the bridge that is on Halls Road is not really wide enough to accommodate sidewalks and bike paths. So we've been working on this with an engineering firm. When we started our project, we discovered that Deep owned a portion of land that we wanted to land our bridge on. And in return for doing that, which they would give us the property, they wanted a fishing pier and some parking spaces. So we're in the midst of working on that. It kind of set us back some time and probably some money to get that extra piece done. We did have grants to do the whole design work for the bridge and the pier, for just the bridge and trails. And then at the pier, there's additional permitting and issues that have to be realized in order for us to get that design work done. So the second half of these two parts is private development, which is all the property on either side of the roadway is privately owned. And in order to make any changes there, we proposed the Halls Road Overlay District to allow for new development that would bring shops up against the street. And in return for doing that, we give the opportunity to developers to build residential multifamily. You know, it's not going to just be single family homes there. It can be multifamily apartments, townhouses, condos. And that's something that we worked on last year and got it all the way to a point where it almost got approved and then it didn't get approved. So we are going to be reapplying in December. And it's one of the main things that affects EDC in terms of what you guys, your interest in seeing new development and new opportunities for the town. This allowing the private development to happen in a more productive way for themselves, you know, better returns on the property would be allowing residential. But I'm going to get into a little more of that. So this is the benefits of the master plan. So keeping our commercial district alive and thriving, that's something that we all know with the internet has become a real challenge for people to figure out how to do things other than online. Services are typically the kinds of things that are going to thrive in this kind of a community. Obviously, anything you buy on Amazon, you're not going to be buying on our street, but the opportunity to get together, and meet each other in person as opposed to through computers is something that this whole idea is
Creating a
aiming for.
sense of place.
Right. So the second thing on the list is to provide the much needed smaller scale housing options for right in our town center, which allows us to be more densely connected, and we're connected directly to the shops that would be there. Also answer the town's mixed use needs instead of the highway service needs. Right now, under the current commercial zone, the most appealing development is to do things that service the highway. I know it's been marketed directly to highway services, saying this is a great easy on, easy off from the highway, and you can put in your convenience store and your gas stations. That's something we don't really want here. We want to have something that answers our needs, which is shops, restaurants, things that are directly related to the town, not to the highway. The other thing we found is one of the most important things that we found in surveys is keeping the character of Old Lyme, like you find on Lime Street. It's certainly not something we have today on Halls Road. It's kind of a mishmash right now. And probably 5 years ago, we heard from zoning saying, we have no way to regulate or help developers see what we want to see. So that's something that the Halls Road overlay has a component for that. And then the last one on the list here is creating a walkable, bikeable, mixed-use town center where people want to meet, linger, interact face-to-face. And it's also crucial to retail and supports our identity as a town, not a suburb. So HROD is the Halls Road Overlay District. It overlays completely over the existing district, so we're not changing any boundary lines. It's completely optional, and it is central to all the benefits of the master plan that we just went through. It costs very little to implement compared to the construction costs for the public improvements, and even for the developers when they want to build something, that's on their dime, not ours. But to change the zoning to make it this optional overlay district, it's pennies compared to all the other costs that the Halls Road Improvements Committee has been looking at. It also makes money for the town because it allows greater investment and better tax returns to the town. You've got a 1-story building that gives you X amount of tax returns. If you have a 3-story building, you've tripled that. So that's coming into the town, not taking away from the town. And by showing Old Lyme is serious about change, it also helps us in getting grants to do the public improvements, which is something that Jane knows a lot about. So that's the basic benefits. This is kind of a less sexy looking slide here. Basically, we're just talking about to implement the master plan. There's a long lead time for doing the public improvements, and we have, we're working on developing a timeline and also cost estimates for things. In just the complete streets alone, we're looking at, we want to get funding and send out a RFP for design work to be done. And in order to, if we do the design work, we've discovered that will help us get our grants and also a construction underway with DOT. The idea is to do a 25% portion of design, which we're close to already having done. We've got drawings of the actual sidewalk and where it would land and the amenities going with that. But we need a full survey of Halls Road. There's no recent survey of that main road. So we do a full survey and then coordinate it with that CAD drawing that we have today. And that would be kind of the first step to getting the improvements going. And also be something that we can take to the DOT and say, okay, here's a serious version of what we're trying to do. we need your feedback to help direct our design firm on how we go forward with this. It's expensive. It's 55,000 might take care of that 25% upfront, but there's going to be another 400,000 to deal with to get the next portion of design just for complete streets. And right now we're estimating to do the construction at around 4.5 million. So, these are the big numbers that we're looking at. We've always known it. Yeah.
Is that an escalated number to construction day? So you took today's costs and you grew the number, or is that today's number?
Yes, it will. I mean, the longer we take to get it done, the more it's going to probably cost. So,
So those are today numbers?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, based on today, and working with BSC helped us get to these numbers. And then the bridge and pier project is another one that we thought we were almost ready to go with this, and with the pier, we're running into issues that we need to iron out before we can go any further. We did, as I mentioned, we did have complete funding for the design of the trails and the bridge. But with the pier, it's added some costs, so that's what we're going to be having to work out how to get to that. Oops. So with the private development, it also has long lead times for a developer. But no developer is going to start doing anything until they see that we're serious about getting this to work. So that means getting the Halls Road Overlay District approved and up and running. It also means, and this is something that I think the EDC might be able to help us with, it also means if we get it approved, we want to put together a really comprehensive marketing packet to search out for good developers for the area. And I think, EDC might be able to help us work together on getting something together for that. That describes what the overlay district is about, how to get there, what restrictions, what incentives we have within that package, and look for people that are not just developers, but good developers that could handle doing mixed use. Because what we're requiring is, in return for putting a small amount of retail up against the street, you can then build above or behind that property with residential. So you can do apartments upstairs or in the back, or townhouses, whatever the property can bear. The Halls Road Overlay District has a very comprehensive listing of do's and don'ts and what you can or can't do. It's meant to be a good incentive for developers to want to do something. It's more of a carrot than a stick. We want to inspire people to do that. And also along with it comes a design review committee that would help developers design things that fit the look of this town as opposed to what we have today on Halls Road. So that's the kind of first step that we need to get this done. We're going to be reapplying in December, which will probably take us to March 25 to get that. If all goes well, we can get that approved.
Is the overlay district proposed rules and regulations? Is that on your website?
The latest one is not. We need to get that up and running, but we can certainly pass it around to folks that are looking for some more detail right now. It's something that we did have a lot of it finished up almost, when we, right at the point when we did not get our approval, we had made changes already within that to address the questions that zoning came up with and the needs that were shown to us that we need to
Is
add.
the architectural review committee prior to going to planning and zoning? Is that the initial step that you have to go through in your proposed regulations? What's the sequence?
I think the review committee idea is that would be something you might go to before you even apply for the HROD. So you would, because I think we give 30 days for that to go through, but we would rather have some time for an investor to talk with the review committee before they even submit anything. So they're not wasting time and energy on things that But also the hope is it helps them get to where they need to go. So they're not like designing something that has nothing to do with what we would approve. So it's helping get further as opposed to backwards. Um, and, you know, yeah, I think we've already gone over the benefits of to the town, that it's a low cost measure and that it generates new tax revenues for the town. Then the next section down below here is, the developer's timeline. So, you know, I know, you know, how long it takes to look into a project, figure out whether you're going to make the money you need and whether it's going to be feasible to do a project. So that takes time. And then it also takes time to work with the design review board, and other regulatory agencies, which are all over the place around here. Yeah. And then from the concept to move in, it can take multiple years. So that I'm just kind of spelling this out to you guys because, you know, I know there's been people saying, you've done nothing for years now. I mean, it's like 9 years into this and there's still nothing to see for your changes. Well, we've been trying. And we've also, you know, we've got a lot of learning has happened over this time. And, you know, we have attempted at things and when they don't work out, we go to the next thing that we can tackle. So it's a constant routine. So, and also just to remind you that these properties are private properties. They are not in any way subsidized by the town. The town is not paying for any tax relief or any of that. It's just straight up, you know, if an investor wants to do something, they can do something. And we do have people that are interested in properties on Halls Road. We've heard for a while a rumor of someone wanting to buy the Old Lyme Marketplace, which is where the Big Y is. I have heard nothing about who that is or who wants to do it, but my guess is they're waiting to see that the town is seriously going to make some changes so that it's worth their time to spend the money on purchasing that property. And we have a couple other folks and also the Hideaway Plaza area is probably coming up for sale again. So that's stuff to consider. So the next steps are, you know, get the application approved, and then it will allow us to keep our commercial district alive and thriving. We'll provide much needed housing options for the town center, in the town center, answer the town's needs instead of the highway needs, and return to Old Lyme's character found on Lime Street. So, and it also will support the public improvements. That's one thing that's important, is that by introducing new housing right on Halls Road, it will allow us to have more clout in terms of getting grants. So that's a big help to all of that. So what we have here is what can the EDC to help us. So one is to help support us adopting the HROD. And the other is to seriously start considering how to do a marketing packet for Halls Road. And we're not ready to do that yet because we haven't approved the thing, but it would be a very important step if we get approval to move this forward. I have a couple other pages here that talk about the support that we've had for the master plan. This slide is about the project we did in 2019 with Advanced CT. You know, that it was a good project. We found out important information. People caring about how it looks is really high on the list. So that was one thing. And then we have,
You think anything changed from that 2019 or those?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's still an interest in changing on Halls Road, making changes. I think they're saying without new effort, business will stagnate. I think that's pretty clear.
Mhm.
So, you know, the arts district is a really key piece to us connecting, and that plus the bridge will help with that too, to get people to be able to walk from the commercial center and down to the different arts district places, as well as the historic district and municipal district here. Yeah, I think, another thing that will be in the HROD is something zoning asked for, which is to have affordable housing. So that's something we waited to be asked to put that in, so we weren't concerned about people saying, oh, you're gonna turn it into this terrible affordable housing complex, because that's not our intention, but we do care about it being affordable.
Workforce housing.
So it's something that's there. So I have packets just to share with you guys, so you can go through some of the details on this. There's also one of the things during the application for the HROD last time was the zoning commission cited a bunch of stuff in the planning, the POCD plan of what is POCD?
Conservation and development.
Conservation and, yeah. So there's specific details in here that support what Halls Road is trying to do. And it was interesting because we had a negative referral from planning when we first applied for this. And I think they just did not understand. We didn't get an opportunity to actually present our overlay district. So hopefully in the next turnaround here, we'll get to go in there and help them really understand it, because I think it really answers a lot of the stuff that they're looking for. And this last slide talks about what we did do right and what were concerns. There were concerns. The last two things that are concerns is stuff that's not really part of zoning, but still concerns that helped, caused us to not get approved. So one was about whether the septic system could handle it. So we did a soil review, and there was a good turnout from that. We have a whole packet that's that soil review, which is so big you can't even fit it on the website. So we can also, I've shared it with various people that know more about soil
So
questions.
did you go down Halls Road and take samples?
They've done the whole district.
Oh.
Yeah, and what was good about it was, there is enough information about existing systems that from Ledgelight that they could learn, what is working, and is there anything that's not working, how's the groundwater, and then they also recognize what types of soils are there and where's the best places for septics. And then the other question was, did DOT even know about us trying to do this overlay? So we did have a conversation with the DOT, and one of their senior people, Joseph Olet, was very helpful in explaining his thoughts about that, and basically said, I think you can do this. It's going to have to comply with all the things that are required for DOT. And this one line here, he recommended that the private development part of the project be carefully set up to encourage connectivity between the properties to assist in avoiding traffic issues, and the local zoning commission should carefully review such plans. And we actually, in reaction to that, put that into the overlay, that connectivity between properties was encouraged. So
What does that mean, Edie?
Hmm?
What does that mean?
what it means is, okay, say where the hideaway is, if you could connect it to Davis Road, then you would have more circulation behind Halls Road, so you
Not
could
on
get from
Falls
place
Road
to
per
place.
se with vehicles and
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. So that's the end of our presentation. Be happy to answer questions or go to whatever your format is that you.
I have a
like to do.
couple of questions. Do you know, I'm sure you know, but is everyone on Hills Road on well water?
Yeah, that's in this same piece, and it is all on well water. And what's good is that we understand what's there today. It's working for that. So
That was part of that soil review, looking
Yes,
at
it
both
was.
sewage
Yeah.
and water.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, how many property owners do we have? Not really counting the gas station or I would even say not counting the Essex Savings Bank building, but how many basic, property lots, I'll call them, are relevant to developing, rebuilding. I mean, you've got marketplace and shopping center. Are we talking about like 5?
Well, there are large and small properties.
Yeah.
The Hideaway is a fairly large property. The Old Line Marketplace is one whole property. So this is one whole property. This is another whole property. It goes up to here.
Right.
This is where that, office building is currently.
Yep.
Dunkin' Donuts is here. The thing is, most of these properties are not owned by local people.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
they're, you know, they're.
Definitely
people that are- People that are using the spaces there are renting them.
Yep.
Including the Big Y. And, so it's hard to go talk to the people renting the spaces about what they want to see for their property. Matt Prosser owns this property. It used to be owned by a consortium of local people in Old Lyme, but he bought everyone out in 2018, I want to say. And so his property here, he's an investor. He's not a developer. He isn't interested in turning it into something else because he doesn't do that kind of work. He just takes the rent and is happy to do that. I mean, he has to keep up things like he did a big infrastructure-ish thing on his septic system recently. Probably the only people that own and work in their building is Treasures, which is right here, and Essex Savings. This is a condominium currently, the blue building on the corner
Yeah.
of Falls Road. It's probably one of the least desirable looking buildings we have, and it's right at the entry to our town, so it would be great if there was a way to update that. So the properties that would have less opportunities to do new housing and stuff are the ones that are not directly sitting on Halls Road. That's part of the Halls Road Overlay District. You need to be able to rewrite on Halls Road in order to put your retail up front and residential behind. And the reason we're not saying, oh, you can just do residential anywhere is that we don't want to turn this into a residential street with apartment buildings. We want it to be a retail center. You put all this money into building sidewalks and then all of a sudden there's nothing to look at right now. So we want to make it so you can walk down the street and browse and run into people. And
So the retail along Halls Road, is that single story retail?
this,
Yes.
yeah, so it's first floor retail. And then behind or above can be residential.
And how high up can you go?
We were trying for 40 feet, but there's a conservation requirement that it cannot be higher than 35 feet. So you can do 2 stories. We would hope that it would have a pitched roof, so you might be able to do something with dormers. It would be nice to be higher because you could do 3 stories more comfortably. However, over here, the grade drops down to this parking area, and that might allow for more of a 3-story situation there, or parking lot, garage underneath, or something to that effect. So, I mean, this to me is the sweetest spot right here because you've got the view of the marsh and the river, and it's furthest from the highway. So that might be something that people are interested in developing.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Who would be on the design review board?
We haven't gotten there yet, but we're trying to get people who are architects and design people, or we really don't want to have just someone who says, I like it or I don't like it. That's why we've got what we have today. So it would definitely want to be design professionals. Another thing in the wording of the design review committee is if we don't have a registered architect, we could, especially for bigger projects, we could hire a registered architect to help with that review because it's important.
So your timing, the the timing that you're looking for with planning and zoning. I'm just trying to get a sense of, when the EDC will have a conversation and come up with a statement for a public hearing at zoning, as we've done in the past. What kind of timing are you looking at?
We're planning to get the application in December.
To zoning,
So probably the public meeting for presentation would be, for zoning would be in January. We also have an issue where the planning committee doesn't meet in December, but their meeting is before the zoning committee, so we can go and present to them. So that too is another place where EDC could chime in with us and help planning understand that it's a viable plan. And also just spreading the word as
That's,
a public entity, it's the kind of thing that, there's also been this question because zoning is now going to be reworking their entire zoning material, which is way overdue and very important, but it can take another 3 years. And if we've got people looking to do development on Halls Road today and waiting to see whether the town is committed, waiting another 3 years is not optimal. We have talked with Eric Knapp about whether they would have an appetite to see our application earlier than that, and they did say yes. They said, we don't want to take this away from Halls Road. I think that meant we like the work you've done so far, get rid of it. So he has mentioned that he would possibly, they might rely on this overlay concept for other parts in town. So it's got some value to it, I guess.
okay.
Well done.
Just one other thing, I have just semantics of the highway services. I know what you mean by highway services, like people driving to, I don't know, Maine or something, and they're pulling off the highway for gas or coffee. But at the same time, I think we're such a small population in Old Line that for a restaurant to be successful, we're looking for destination restaurants.
Yes.
And so, again, it's just semantics, but,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely.
easy on and off.
Yeah.
I mean, Pappy's Taqueria, and everyone laughs because I can never say Taqueria, I don't know what it is, but Pappy's. A lot of, they're doing well because people love that they're easy on and off the highway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works both ways for sure. So easy on, easy off means that you can come to us, go to our commercial center, park, have lunch, go over to the arts
Right.
district. I mean, that is all key and what makes us special as well.
Yeah.
And what's really nice about Halls Road is it's only 7/10 of a mile. It's a finished finite thing. It's not like Guilford, which Route 1 just sprawls all the way down and sort of degrades the beautiful main part of Guilford.
Yeah.
And by being such a short distance, I don't think it can get overbuilt because they just physically can't. I mean,
Right.
people are worried about it being overbuilt, but that's just, we'll be lucky if it gets built the way we want to see it.
still, there's, I would call it a problem, but a challenge in quashing rumors.
Mm.
And I don't have any, I can create some rumors, but you can do that too. But that's very important here because people have come to conclusions over the past 5 years, which have
Yeah.
no relevance to what you've been doing.
Yeah.
The 800 unit towers are
Sure.
among that.
Yes.
That keep coming up.
Yeah. Well, I ran into a guy the other day. I was working on a preserve for the Lowland Land Trust and ran into a young couple and their 3 kids. And this guy started chatting and we were talking about all sorts of things. And he got on to saying, well, I'm all in favor of doing nothing. And I said, well, I'm not sure I really agree with that. Doing nothing doesn't mean nothing will happen. Stuff is going to happen whether you do anything or not. It's better to plan for what we want than to say, we're not going to change, and it will never change. It will change no matter what. It's changing already. So It's kind of do nothing doesn't really mean what one would hope it
If I'm
would.
allowed to tell an appropriate story. Some years ago, when the power company had offered to put its power lines underground on most of Lime Street, we had a large presentation done very professionally, Lime Street through history.
Mm.
And it was quite clearly showed the Gibson girls and the trolley cars and the whole works up to the present, which included a lot of big mud puddles along the street. And a doyen of the street at the far end stood up in majesty and said, "I think the street should remain as it is, the way it's always been."
Hmm.
Well, her vision of the way it has always been is
Not what it's always
not
been.
what it is and hardly what it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
even though she was of sufficient age to recall, the Pierce Arrows and Packards.
Sure.
But and everybody applauded. I mean,
Yes,
erasing,
this is the biggest
erasing the
resistance in
attempt
town.
to
Yeah.
cause people to think about it
Mhm.
afresh.
Mhm.
Well, and it's, honestly, when I was a child, Lime Street was our mixed use center, and we had people living and working and selling things all on that street. In the 1960s, there was a concerted effort to rezone and kill this part of town in order to make the other part successful. And that's what they did. And they made it so you couldn't have, as you know, you can't have restaurants south of the town hall. There's all sorts of restrictions and nonconformity issues based on the zoning that they instituted onto Lime Street. So, what we're doing for the H-Rod is far less intense. And I think we started out on 1 foot trying to do a village district and realized too many nonconformities, there's issues with that. So we don't want to go there. So, there's resistance to change, but there's also people saying you're not changing fast enough. At this point, that whole article in the day was like, well, you've done nothing for 9 years. It's like, well, we have been doing things, but you just can't see the actual changes happening. But it would be nice to get going. I think when I look at this presentation, 2019 is when we got a lot of work done. Then we got hit with COVID, and then we, are trying to crawl back from there. And there's just stuff that happens over that period of time. So here we are. But it would be great to get your support and great to, have you pass the word around that this is something the town can do to protect itself from more gas stations. I mean, the Hideaway area was advertised as easy on, easy off for, truck stops. And, if someone only cares about a truck stop, they can do that, There's no rule against it. So our H-Rod doesn't allow gas stations. It allows electric charging stations, because that means you have to stop and hang out for a while in town and maybe go somewhere. So
I just want to say, I really appreciate hearing your comment about the bridge not being wide enough for sidewalks, because I work on Halls Road and I see people walking and children biking, and it's not safe.
Yeah.
And you do wonder, why can't we
And you
get
get
sidewalks?
4 or
And it
5
does
kids
feel like we're
abreast,
taking
and
yes.
yeah, and it's it's a 30-inch walkway, so
Right.
That's just not really enough for that kind of.
So it's helpful to me because I do feel like, oh, we're not moving fast enough on the sidewalk thing, but I can appreciate that it's not
Yeah,
feasible, so
it's-
we have to come up with a different
Yeah,
solution.
and the bridge, the abutment is there, the old bridge abutment is there. And it also helps to bring our community right down to the Lieutenant River, which is one of the most beautiful parts of this town. It's like, people kayak down there all the time, and there's, and I think, we do have people that are often crabbing there and fishing. And in order to accommodate them, we don't want them fishing off the bridge. That's kind of a nightmare. And we also have to still accommodate fire trucks to come down alongside where this bridge will be. So we can't
Right.
block that. So the fishing pier, as much as I would rather not have to do that, it actually gets the fishing in the right place on the river. So that would be a big thing.
Relevant to the beauty of the Lieutenant River there, it has always made me a little crazy that the building that the Hideaway is in, 19 Halls Road,
So ugly.
well, no, that it blocks the view of the Lieutenant River. The only people who get to enjoy that view, unless
Yeah.
you're on the second floor of the Hideaway,
Yeah.
are the people who are sitting out behind the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, in the back alley,
Yeah.
taking a break from their jobs.
Yeah.
If that building was moved away from that space and opened up that land so that people could appreciate that view of the
Yeah, I
river.
mean, that's just so clear, and it could probably be the more high-end stuff because it's got a lot of amenities like the river. So
Yeah.
that's something that I think could really be a good thing. So I'd love to ask what you guys think about this idea of helping us with a marketing packet. You must see those all the time, Jeff, right? I mean, you run into that animal.
Are they typically done, when there's a particular property for sale?
I think the idea is it's something that gets publicized. These are things that are beyond what I know. I don't have that experience. Maybe you
It's
can.
probably an economic development document that, you know, private landowners can look at, you know, can guide future developers to say, okay, here it is in Old Lyme. Here's the vision for the development. Here's the town profile. It's one-stop shop, you know. Here's the 2019 SWOT. Here's the 2025 SWOT, really 2025 SWOT.
Future development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to be up to the individual property owners to market their own properties. That's typically what I get from an individual. It's okay, I have this parcel of land and XYZ, you know, it's sitting here. You know, like this is the Old Lyme shopping center document that's out on Northeast Property Group. And then they, you know, the broker put it together, and I can pass this around for everybody to look at, but that's how it's typically put together.
Yeah, and you're right. It's usually individual properties,
Yeah.
but I think for the town to actually do a promotion, maybe it's not forever, but it at least would give a nice
Yeah,
boilerplate
I agree
explanation of the
so it
overlay.
It wouldn't hurt to have something from the town that
Yeah.
supported.
Because I think that's, you know, given there are a lot of developers out there like, we're not going to Old Lyme. They want no change. They won't deal with anything. They don't.
As a
Yeah, we
bid.
have a bad rep. We really do. So I think it's worth pumping that up a little bit and showing that, you know, change is coming to Old Lyme and we're behind it. So
Looking at this nice aerial, I recall well from Bob Chapman and others that this was intended to be a horseshoe.
yes, yeah.
That would have enclosed a parking area. I hope a green in there, but probably not.
I mean, the thing
But
is,
there was an intention to make it, to
yes,
unify it.
yeah.
And just reverse the horseshoe, and it becomes a very beautiful, unlocks the
Oh, it
beauty of the,
unlocks.
Yes.
beauty of the river.
I mean, the thing is, we have a 1960s zoning ordinance with 60-foot setbacks to make sure you can see all the good parking you're going to get once you get in that strip center. It was a time when, for the first time, they suddenly separated commercial and retail from residential. If you look back before that, everybody did things together. And all of a sudden, this car thing said, oh, put a shopping mall over there, and then we can just have our suburban housing over here. And it's a concept that lasted for quite a while, but it's dying now mainly because people need to walk around and get to know each other. They're not
Yeah.
as interested in being in a car. I mean, many of the people, younger generation, are like, I just want to walk, you know, and it's not as interesting to drive the car somewhere and it's a different animal.
I like the idea, going back to an earlier point, I like the idea of having the sort of interoperability of the dwellings and the businesses off the road. So you're not gonna suddenly have Falls Road be like downtown Madison. No offense.
Hmm.
But,
Well, the idea is
Yeah.
you bring the buildings up to the
yeah,
road. though.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's, it's not gonna be festooned with parking on the street
Right,
constantly.
Right,
Right.
right. And one of the things like on Main Street in Saybrook and in Madison, those roads are so wide that nobody wants to cross over. You
Oh,
know,
no.
it's like you got to go through the diagonal parking and then the 2 lanes of road and then the little island and then all the same again. And to just go back and forth across the street is a difficult proposition.
What are in your HROD draft, what are the parking relationships for resi? Is it one?
Yes, it's the relationships are eased, I want to say. So basically, you don't need to have X amount of parking per individual building. You need to have it, it can be shared. But there are still restrictions that would be required to follow. So I know this is similar to what happened in Niantic. I think they used to have, like for one given store, you had to have so many parking spaces.
250 square feet of retail, yes.
You know this better than me. But then they changed it so that for 5 stores, you only needed so much parking. And that's a way of making it more possible to be walking places.
Right, because what will limit, the parking space utilization, the relationships of parking space, the bedrooms and the residential, that gets into surface area coverage. That if you bump up against, that'll, however you look at it, can impact the number of residential. And then for develop, what's left for septic field where you put, because there's a whole different, the septic tanks that go underneath a parking spot versus putting a septic tank for a residential building. There's different utilization and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
so all those things really need to be thoughtful. I'll take a look at your.
Yeah,
HR
I'd be happy to share it with you.
Great.
Because I think that the attorney that helped us write this thing is a land use guy. So he understood a
Is that
lot.
using Ed Casella?
It's Bill Sweeney.
Bill,
Bill Sweeney.
oh, he's Ed's partner, yeah. And Bill's very good.
And he helped us because, we're not zoning officials, but he's an urban planner as well as a lawyer. So he knew how to write the stuff and understand the things to worry about or not worry about. So,
He probably knows that.
his big thing was let's give people a carrot instead of hitting them over with a stick. So I guess that's a common thing, but
Yeah.
it made sense to me. I was like, yeah. I
That's
get it.
great. Your
Um,
preparation was phenomenal for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Also, just, the booklet that Jeff handed out, or passed around. I don't think you got to see it, Edie, but they do promote the overlay district as a
That's new.
potential.
I haven't seen their latest thing.
The other thing they do is they have a picture of Sabre Point Inn when they're promoting Old Town of Line, but
Oh, well, I'll tell Brad that he must have.
Which for a walkable space is very.
So that's
unwalkable.
online, right, Jeff? I can just download that.
No, it's not.
It's not on. Will you send me the link?
Sure.
okay. Edie, thank you so much. That was really
Well
helpful,
done.
really thoughtful and helpful. So
Thanks
thank
for the-
you.
Thank you.
Is there any way we can leave the SWAT, the 2019 SWAT up so we can use that as a guide?
Sure, you had that in,
I have a lot of that original stuff.
yeah, we have it online, but, oh, thank you. See what
Thank
page
you.
that was on.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Was. How you doing, Wendy?
Thank you.
Doing okay.
Okay.
Page 8.
Yeah, page 8. So I'll try to facilitate this, but if it doesn't feel like it's working, please say so, and we'll try another way of doing this, because we just got a really good overview from Edie of where, the thought process for the last several years and addressing some solutions to existing, weaknesses. So for Halls Road Commercial District, do we want to list some strengths of the Halls Road?
Yep.
District. All right.
So
Anyone want to
you
go
want us
first?
to be part of this or you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You want to leave it.
What are some strengths of the Halls Road? Now, I would say a strength is easy audio.
Yeah, that's exactly the first thing that pops into my head.
I would agree with that.
Easy access.
All right, Edie.
And also that it's 0.7 of a mile, so it's contained.
But that also could be a weakness because
It could
for,
be-
it could be a weakness because for economic development.
There's limited opportunities, right?
Opportunity. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say a strength is actually the Lieutenant River and the wetlands.
Oh, absolutely.
If only I could see the wetlands by my building regularly. Just-
Well, with the
It's-
bridge, you will.
Well, no, what I have issues is the weed growth in our parking lot. I'm in
Which building
I'm
are
in
you in?
the yellow building with Duncan and Citizens,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not well maintained, the area around it.
yeah.
I'm not even sure who owns the weed area, if it's our building or if it's someone else. That's
Huh.
it's unclear.
Weaknesses could be absentee owners.
Thank you. Yes, that's a huge weakness for any improvements.
Mm.
And uninterested in in making any changes, I think is true of a lot of the absentee owners. To your point, you mentioned just wanting to
Do nothing.
collect the
Yeah.
rents and that's their interest, which is fine, but it's not helpful for us improving opportunities in town,
The
right?
desirability of the road. And
They're
the
like less
ability to get
invested.
those rents will be diminished. Which has
Can
happened
be
in
potentially,
many
but doesn't mean all of them are. I
Yeah.
mean, some absentee owners could be fabulous.
Yeah, yeah. John, did I miss a point you were making?
I was confirming
Oh, okay.
point.
All right. Any other strengths or weaknesses? We'll start with these two.
Deaf, blind.
Certainly,
Absentee
a
owners.
strength would be proximity to the arts district, the
Oh, yeah.
emerging arts district.
Uh-huh.
That's also an opportunity to bring Falls Road to the arts district.
I think another strength right now would be, we do have diversity in businesses. We've got some diversity.
I just can't hear you.
Diversity. We've got some diversity.
Diverse businesses, she said,
Diverse
Cheryl.
Businesses.
Okay,
That would be a strength.
okay. So the diversity is in the types of businesses,
We have a diversity in the
Yeah.
type.
right?
I think a lot of people think that a weakness, I don't necessarily know if I agree with this because I think it would be really hard to have a restaurant in Old Lyme, just period based. I mean, but a lot of people complain that we don't have more restaurants,
Yeah.
but we've got a bunch. There are a bunch of restaurants. People just don't go to the ones we've got all the time, so. But I know people say that. I don't agree with it. But if
Yeah, I
somebody
think
else thinks that.
in terms of,
Restaurants,
Yeah.
not enough restaurants.
Well, the type of restaurants are typically pub food. Right?
Well, there's.
I mean, even Old Lyme Inn is pub food at this point. Old Lyme Inn used to be a very high-end restaurant, but
Yeah.
it isn't anymore, but they charge like that. But it's basically pub food, you know, it's, and pub food is, yes, there's a good collection of that, but there's an opportunity to have a lot more better restaurants. I mean, you look at what you get in Chester Village, and there's some great different types of restaurants, including pub food.
Let's say
And
diverse dining options, not better restaurants.
Yeah,
Let's say
yeah.
Diverse.
Opportunity.
more diverse, yes.
More-
instead of
more
saying
diversity.
restaurants.
Diverse restaurant.
Diverse in terms of menu and price point.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, 'cause
that's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
but we do have options. I just don't think people think, let me go to Halls Road to get food. They're like, let me go to Old Saybrook or let me go to East
Right,
Avenue, you know,
right.
they just don't
Yeah.
really think about it at all.
Like,
And it takes time for people to get that habit. It took me a long time to remember Henry Goose is open for dinner now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes, I mean, I give them a lot of credit because they've stayed steady. Some of these restaurants, because it's so hard to afford to do something new, they keep changing their hours, or, you know, like Bee and Thistle
It's
was
very
famous for that.
confusing.
They'd have it open Sunday through Thursday night for dinner, and then it would change. And by the time you got used to the idea of, well, let's go down and Bee and Thistle, they no longer were serving that chestnut grill thing they had in the downstairs at one point. You know, they kept changing because they had to, because it was an expensive proposition always.
Yeah, and restaurants are very hard things to make a living at.
Yeah.
Supermarkets,
Hard life.
restaurants, you know, it's a
I know, that's
difficult.
why, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to say, you know, like, we need more restaurants because it's very difficult.
Yeah.
well, you can figure that out.
Well, you know,
When
there
you go
was,
to a source named Esri and they track to look at the spending in the community. And if there's leakage in restaurants from the residents that live in here, they're spending it somewhere else. So they're going to Old Saybrook to spend the dollars. So if you looked at Esri and the money is spent out of market, you can tell, and you prove that there's leakage.
Oh,
What's
Yes,
it called?
Esri, it's a
How do
company.
they track you?
They track it from, they
Credit card
use,
sales?
they use it from phone
And
data.
Location data on your phone, from
Yeah.
what I understood. I was
There's another
talking to
company,
a person who said, we know where they go after they
Right.
come here.
Placer AI is another one that tracks phone data. So you use that when you're looking at sites, you look, you know, all this data is available.
Okay.
I'll
so
see
can
if I
you
can
give
get it.
again? Esri?
Yes. Yes.
Esri?
ERSI. I'll see if I can.
Fascinating and also a little
Report
scary.
It shows you, you know, the socio and demographic, you know, economic, sociographic profile of the town. That shows where they like to go, where they spend their money. Data's all there.
Okay, so it's Esri?
Yeah.
And then what else was it?
Placer AI,
How do you spell that?
PLACIER.ai. I could probably put it up on my
Interesting.
laptop. Yeah, so
Wow.
Esri is also linked to like a National Geographic base file.
yeah, they use
So they
various
know where the
services.
buildings are.
So, you know what, I'll find an ESRI report from a project I worked on somewhere else.
Very interesting.
it is.
It's good to know.
Another strength I would say is, we have a very entrepreneurial commercial district. We don't have, other than a couple of franchise food options. Most everyone on the street is a unique business, like about, you know, Bowerbird and some of the restaurants. We don't have chains.
well, we have Walgreens, we have Big Y, we
True.
have the wine place, which is a chain. That's,
Oh, yeah.
liquor store is a chain.
It's only four or five. Like I have.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm only
Don't
saying
get
from
it.
experience of trying to talk to them about what they would like to see on Halls Road.
Yeah.
They couldn't talk to me about it. They were like, I don't know, we'll just rent this place. you
The
know?
guy lives in Guilford,
Okay.
the owner of that.
Subway?
But also, I
We
think
have some change, but it's not, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, we have a minimum amount of retail in my mind. It's not a lot. You know, I mean, the biggest success I would say is the new hardware store. Why? Because they do
She works her
service.
tail
They're
off.
Great service oriented
Yeah,
kids. I mean,
yeah.
they get that.
Well, then what if a strength is we have, successful entrepreneurs on Halls Road?
I hope they're successful.
Okay. Any other weaknesses?
So the do nothing, meaning plan nothing, is something that I think, I don't know whether it's a threat or a weakness, but it's something that undermines. It goes hand in hand with the idea that Old Lyme is not interested in doing good business.
So reputation, I guess.
Oh,
of-
good.
Of not friendly to business, right?
Yeah, I think that's really,
Reputation, yes, absolutely. Could also be a weakness,
Right.
but it's a threat.
yeah, you're right, that is. Okay. Water and sewer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which won't change. I mean, we're not getting any septic
And
system.
it's not pleasant when someone in your building has to have their septic pumped regularly, like in the middle of the day. The
Yeah.
Dunkin' septic gets pumped. Not pleasant.
That's your building.
Because
is
so
right.
many
Yeah.
people use that now.
And
'Cause
another
easy access.
issue that goes hand in hand in that is that for a long time, there's been this attitude that, you can only have one type of septic system, whereas there's new community septic systems that are being introduced or have been introduced, like all the
Geometric systems,
what?
geometrics that have the blowers and they.
Yeah, like the apartments by the train station, those all have a community system.
Yeah, yes.
And also the new stuff they're trying to do with the Westbrook outlets
Same system.
location, big community system in there. So that's an opportunity to take advantage of that for Halls Road, for community systems.
But that's also an area that historically the town has resisted and the state helped the town resist.
And
So-
they didn't want development. Yeah. I mean, the whole reason for moving off of Lime Street was, there's no water down there.
Yes.
We're surrounded by rivers. There's no water there,
I'll
but
just put in.
Oh,
the
okay,
board
we're
thing.
taking a picture. Okay, that's fine.
Either way, but it's, yeah, that's all we'll really need.
Okay.
Okay, before we really focus on opportunities and threats, other strengths and weaknesses we should be sure to include here.
I think there's a sense of where are you when you drive into Halls Road and you park. You say, okay, I think I'll take a walk down to Long Hill.
Oh, the little coffee place?
Coffee, well,
Yeah,
it's coffee
Long
and
River.
very good sandwiches, but it's a long way and you have to figure out how to get
there's
there.
no sidewalk.
And there's no signage.
Yeah.
And I don't mean cutesy signage, I mean just signage that says,
Wayfinding?
yeah,
No sidewalk, no signage.
And as you put, resistance to change in town is a definite issue for many people.
yeah, it is, but it's a sort of knee-jerk resistance to change. It's not,
Could that be a
it's not
threat?
analyzed.
Resistance to change is a
I have
threat.
that reputation of not business friendly. All right, we'll put also,
Resistance to change.
community, some community resistance to change.
So the counter to that would be better on their opportunities, better storytelling why this would work for our community.
I was just thinking the whole sense of place thing,
Yeah,
right?
storytelling.
I would go with storytelling because you have to make people put themselves in that picture. Put
So-
themselves in the picture of it.
This is Esri this is Glendale, Arizona. And this is that's an Esri report. It's a project I worked on that shows you the profile of the residents within 0 to 30 miles. It gives you all their attributes, how they spend on money. There's an index. Shows all that stuff that's available.
So how do you get to a sense of place? How does that storytelling work?
Okay, we're not gonna displace the Christmas theme from the parking lot to Big Y. We're gonna have a grand, this is the old line, this is the gathering place. So we're gonna have the holiday thing, we're gonna have an ice carving, and this is part of your Halls Road. And this is, the Little League, something there and.
Some more community involvement?
It's a
Yeah.
community gathering place
Yeah.
where there's events and it's a common place where people can gather. And when it's not being used, you can sit there and sip your coffee and gather and linger and talk and things like that. So whether it probably should have some green space in it. So it's a green, you can have a concert there, things like that.
Yeah.
This is a Florida example. The Winter Park, Florida looks like what you're doing.
Mhm.
There was a train that was built there, rails, and the entrepreneurs said, we should put a town here. And the town is right outside of Orlando, and when you go over the speed bump, and suddenly there are trees in Winter Park,
Nice. Yeah.
and the other side is Orlando.
Where in
Talking.
Arizona?
Glendale, west of Phoenix.
Florida,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I used to live in Peoria. Which is
It's-
also west,
It's
west
really
of
west. It's like towards the mountains.
this.
Yeah, it's this place, the drop the pin is where the Cardinal Stadium is in Glendale, where right there. So.
Okay, so another opportunity is, I would say, the overlay district, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so our opportunity is to support the Hall Road Committee, right? That's an opportunity.
Well, did not the Halls Road Committee flow out of this commission?
I think it was out of the first select woman's
Was it?
office.
Okay. I was trying to
But there
remember.
were people on the commission who, Howard McGill.
With the overlay, I think one of the things is more affordable housing,
Yes.
more affordable for seniors,
Or diverse
working
housing.
people here, sort of,
Diverse.
I think that's a big need in this town, as a matter of fact.
Huge need. I think it has to be divorced from ideology, however.
Yeah, so could you re-say it that we would like our seniors to age in place in Old Lyme?
Yeah.
That's right. Be nice to have the kids able to afford to stay here.
Yeah. Or come back.
Well, come back with bells on.
Although I have to say, I wanted to come back for years, but there was no job opportunity.
That's different
I
issue.
think I have to wait till I die, move back into my house. That's it.
Well, right now, when they move back, there's no community here for them. I mean, there's a limited community.
By the time they come back, they're old. So.
Yeah. Okay,
That'll be very old.
anything else? I would say a threat would be developers working within the current zoning, but doing things that aren't going to support our sense of place.
Developers
Right
monopolizing.
now,
space.
though, does zoning stop anything that they don't like? I mean, how does it work right now?
Well, so here's an example, that 19 Hall Road, the that's shopping center. If someone wanted to buy that and just do offices, like get rid of Andy's, get rid of the
Hideaway.
dance school, the hideaway, everything, and just make it office space, I think they could. Because it is zoned for that. And then we lose all those little businesses that support our community.
And you turn into right now it is predominantly office space upstairs.
Yeah,
So, but again, you lose the opportunity of looking at the river and making a more valuable property out of that property than what it is today.
Okay, anything else? So our next steps, I think, is we accumulate all of our opportunities for all the different zones and then we kind of prioritize them. I'm looking to
I
Jeff.
think you might make it to the finals.
Oh, yeah. But anyway,
So
that's kind of what we're like every week or twice a month, we're taking one area and doing this exercise with guests who are smarter than us in some ways. And then we're gonna look at the big picture for economic development for the whole town. And where we should be spending our energy and our resources.
Great.
So, and Halls Road is key, right?
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, the opportunity from a revenue generation, this is probably the highest opportunity for tax revenue generation of anything we looked at so far, right?
It's Halls Road.
Yes, and revenue generation isn't in there as, say, an opportunity.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. The
All right,
tax
so
revenue generation is the highest potential.
Because it is an industry.
Hatchet's Hill in that area does have a lot of tax revenue potential. We don't know. We should probably look into that.
How much more?
Yeah, we could add it up.
How much more is opportunity? Is it,
I don't know.
can it grow 10%, 15%? This seems like it's a major opportunity.
But it's only 0.7 of a mile, whereas Hatchet's Hill is a lot longer.
Yeah, we should study both.
But
Yeah.
I think, Mona, are you saying a snapshot today of the tax revenue coming from Hatchet's Hill versus Halls Road, you're thinking is higher?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. And then Jeff, you're talking about
It's really
potential.
an
You're
incremental-
talking about
incrementally what we
improvements.
generated and on
Right.
Hutchinson incrementally.
Right, it would be interesting. I mean, I like numbers, so I'd like
It's a math exercise.
yeah, I like that. See what, I don't even know
Gee,
what,
I need you to help us calculate that.
I don't even know, you know,
Well, you gotta find the numbers first, right?
yeah. Just gotta figure out all of the numbers. I mean, there's definitely more concentrated.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
Thank you
nice
so
job.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Come back or do anything, let us know.
All right,
Excellent. And you've got all your
I'll send
parts.
you the latest of the HRMs.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Edie. Thanks, Jane.
So there's more concentrated development, you know, there's definitely more individual smaller pieces paying taxes, but how much do those big buildings on Hatchet's Hill, how much? I don't know.
Yeah. Again, with respect to signage, you don't go there unless you need a specific thing, and you don't hang out there once you've arrived in Hutchinson. And you have to figure out how to get out if you're not.
No, I'm
gonna
not
go out
talking
there.
about that. I'm talking about revenue.
Property tax.
Yeah, I understand,
taxes.
yeah.
As opposed to sit.
Nobody's
someone
going
wanna-
shopping on Hatchet's Hill.
Yeah.
Someone can ask Melinda in our assessor's office. I think Melinda would be the person as opposed to Suzanne in tax, but ask how much revenue.
I'll do it since it's.
Yeah, ask her.
I really do very little for this committee.
And Mona, like, break out Hatchet's Hill, you know, just the commercial zone, and I would include Vista Lane or whatever it's called, Vista
Is Vista the one where the
Drive.
the animal?
No,
No,
Vista
it's the
is,
one north of
Oh, it's the one,
95
okay.
where there's like a healthcare.
yeah,
um,
that's
Okay.
part of that zone as well. Compared to Falls Road, we would do the full length of Falls Road, wouldn't we?
So the other piece of it is not just property taxes paid on the buildings, but every business pays property tax as well.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Be nice to
On the
know.
equipment, on the
For
FF&E.
everything you have, yeah, all your furniture, all your,
And that goes to the town.
Yeah.
So you get taxed twice.
if you own the
You
building.
get tax on the building and the FF&E. So the landlord usually gets taxed on the building
Correct.
and the tenant gets taxed on the.
You pay for your
copy
computer and your
Yeah.
desk and your this.
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay it, they send you a note, then they just tack it on your regular taxes.
So Mona, if you can ask her, you
Yeah,
know,
I'll see
for
what I
those
can find
two
out.
pieces, for those two areas, that would be,
It would
Very
be nice
interesting.
if you're doing that, which you will be. Find out, try to get an estimate of how many people work there in those areas.
I don't know that Melinda will have that,
I
but
mean, it's difficult to get a handle on, but if they say, oh, they're 250, or they say they're 175, or they say they don't know, because if they live in town, that the presence of that site allows them to pay their town tax.
I would suggest when Scott is at our next meeting, to see if he can figure out how to find that out from the state level. Because that's how you figure out unemployment and everything.
Right.
It's in those metrics that he is pulling together.
And some of the regional stuff it also includes some of those type of numbers. I don't know how they break down by like location of town though.
Right.
But certainly not everyone who works in those
No.
buildings lives in town.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get a handle on the number of logo T-shirts that would work in that area. People who live in town and work there.
Oh. Okay, as opposed to like coming here from East Lyme or something.
that's
Georgia.
right.
Oh, that would be very hard.
Just a
to figure
little
out.
feel for it. I think of Chester, which did not arrive at present day Chester as special automatically. It was definitely 30 or 40 years ago, it was definitely on the way down, though I did favor the Patacon game as an escape. Now, because of the work of a few local people, it stays open on whatever it is, Thursday nights, or whatever it is.
It's a lovely place.
And people have a place to go. You go there, you park your car wherever you
And
can.
you have varying menus and price points there.
Yes, that's a very good
You
point.
have pub food, the core pub food at the Patacon. You have high end at the Italian restaurant. You have the, nice restaurant across the street.
You got the brewery, you got the,
Yes.
you got the pizza
the
place that's
difference.
mostly outdoors.
You have a diverse product with some art stores and things like that, so.
Yeah.
But that didn't arrive by itself. It was fired up by people who said, why don't we stay open one? Everybody. And it.
Yeah, when you had a drive program, you got people to come there and do things, it's a whole, it takes a group of people, it's a vision.
And that's a very small area too. It's limited. You don't drive.
It goes to the post office on one end and.
Right, that was really productive. Thank you, everyone, for your input on that process. New and other business. Kellogg Marine Supply expansion, going before the zoning commission. Kellogg Marine is going before zoning.
Yeah.
In November. There's a public hearing then. I don't know if we are feeling creative at this point in the meeting to think about how to support this with a statement. Maybe we want to discuss it and then work on a statement at our next meeting. Any thoughts?
Oh, sorry for my ignorance. Where is this located?
Okay, Kellogg Marine is up in the light industrial zone.
Okay.
They're one of our largest employers. They have about 150 employees there. I could be wrong, but I think that's the number I
They
have.
sell boat stuff, boat finishing.
They have a large warehouse there.
Many, many trucks that show up and down the East Coast.
And they are, just looking for the exact wording. They have an application to modify their existing special permit for warehouse expansion of a approximately 38,000 square feet with associated changes to the parking facilities, drainage, utilities, and landscaping. To say just that, it's hard to know whether or not we support that, but there's a lot of background information that before the next meeting, look at some of the planning and zoning, the planning and inland wetland minutes that I sent out while you were gone. I sent out links to some of
Okay.
those to
I'll look it up.
see some of the,
And everything seems legit, like they're not looking for a variance or anything like that. They're just trying to put something else on there.
well, they're trying to expand.
Will they,
I don't
will
know.
it create
Like-
more jobs?
There, oh gosh, I should have this pulled up. Wendy, I think there's a limit to how many people they can have on site at any given time. That's an excellent question.
Should we ask them to come to our meeting and pitch for our support?
We
Do we
can
do we
ask.
do things like that?
They
It's
care.
possible, yeah.
Pardon me?
Yes, it's possible. We do, yes.
Okay, I'm new here.
But people have to remember to do it. I would remind us collectively that Kellogg's appearance wasn't automatic either. There's a significant amount of pushback from zoning and neighbors and et cetera. So that the mention of landscaping was not accidental on their part. Because there are berms there are sound reduction berms, and there's light reduction.
They backed up to Chestnut Hill.
Yeah.
The top of Chestnut Hill.
So, and I think they did a very good job of putting a fundamentally distribution center and making it nice. You drive in. There's a nice sign, there's a nice office, the office fronts the street. The trucks are all in the back.
All right, I can reach out to them. I've talked to their HR person in the past. I can reach out to them to see if they would come to our meeting. But if they don't have the, if it doesn't work out for their schedule, I think a good question, Wendy, as you said, will it support new jobs?
Mhm.
Right, I mean, they can't come in person when they send us some kind of overview of the project and what they
Yeah,
ask us.
yeah. I thought this was important because when we talked about the light industrial zone, we talked about how we have these core businesses that seem very stable.
Mhm.
It's possible if they can't do what they want to do here, they will
Sure.
look in other towns.
Yeah,
I mentioned the trucks that are visible all over the East Coast. In shorefront, marinas, et cetera. And I see them in New Bedford, further out toward the Cape, seen them in Portland, Maine.
And they chose Old Lyme as their
They
base.
chose their line. It was the on, easy off.
So one of the things, if I remember right, that we talked about, that the real estate, Susan, was it, that came? She mentioned that it was there were some height issues that were not necessarily conducive to warehouses. And the zoning almost implied that the heights were sort of like residential heights.
Yeah,
And
12 foot.
right, so
And
that,
that turned out to be Kellogg
yeah,
when they went to planning, I think.
zoning or ZBA maybe even.
Oh, maybe it was ZBA, yeah.
Because maybe they did need a variance because of the height of the warehouse.
As I say, the neighbors did push back rather harshly at that point.
Well, this is with the current expansion, not the original.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the original.
Yeah, no,
So that they're sensitive to these matters.
okay.
So, do you have any proposals on, well, I guess I'll reach out to them for October 16th.
And Frank and.
Yeah, Frank
Michaela.
and, yeah. And see if they would want to give us a 15-minute overview.
Yeah.
The public hearing, I believe, is in November, so it would be nice to be able to decide on what our support is.
So our November meeting would be prior to the formal meeting, correct? So if they couldn't do it on the 16th, they could come the first Wednesday of November.
Yeah, one would think that would be before zoning, because zoning's later in the month.
Zoning is the second Monday of the month, which in November is Veterans Day, so I don't know.
Good
And
point.
Say,
Our meeting is the 6th.
our
Yes.
meeting is the 6th. See if we can see.
They shouldn't have to do a full scale development proposal, but rather just tell us what they have planned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So make it easy for them.
A light overview.
all right, I don't see, let's see. I'm not seeing their meeting listed in November, but only because of the holiday. Oh, they are gonna be November 12th. So it's the day after Veterans Day, so, all right. November 12th, all right, so we'll have our meeting before then, and we can get that kind of firmed up. All right, is there any other new or other business?
This is very small and it doesn't have to be entered into the minutes, but the Olam Wetlands and Watercourses Commission, which you had sent to us, has a note that the Olam Cemetery Association wanted to fill a portion of the wetlands at the eastern boundary of Elm Street to allow for temporary access while the bridge over the Duck River is renovated. I noticed about 2 weeks ago in the New London Day that proposal had been removed. They had said they weren't going to do that, which is a relief to me, so I don't have to go to the inland wetlands and say, no, don't do that. That's about 100 feet from my house. And that means trucks. And it also means the misuse of a 10-foot wide non-vehicular walkway, which they intend to use for vehicles. Clearly. So, anyway, they withdrew it.
Okay. Huh. Thank you for sharing that. And it reminds me that I'm just back in town, but I did notice on 156, they're getting that access road ready for
Yeah.
Ferry Road. So, I will mention that, I'm hoping I can put together some sort of list of our restaurants and their menus and have a QR code. I have to figure out how to do that because they don't really have a place, where they're working right now. So how do we do that? And then related to that, the Lime Academy wants to really provide something to their students on local dining and other amenities in town. So can work on this, both of them at the same time.
While they're at it, they might consider, if we're going to consider the Olam Academy constituency, that they could stay open a little bit later than 8 o'clock. Restaurants.
The restaurants
Yes.
to serve the students. Okay,
How many kids are there?
Yes,
though?
Well,
Yeah.
they're older, but still, they want to go somewhere.
anything else?
Oh,
If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Mona,
I'll second.
Dina seconding it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Wendy.
All right, thank you guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Glad to have